I belong to a generation which was fortunate enough to grow up in the 60s. In the 60s, it means with, I would say, all the beauties of that period in countries like Czechoslovakia and the communist countries. It meant not exactly the same like in the Western Europe, but it certainly meant more freedom, more open space, more possibilities and opportunities to express, more freedom of expression for artists, for journalists, for students, for simply people who were rethinking what could they do with the state of society. And the state of society in general, it was very well known, was not good. It was not good for many reasons, not only for economic reasons, because Czechoslovakia, which was not only the island of democracy in the pre-Second World War world or pre-Second World War Europe, but also which was a very well economically developed country, gradually was declining in the period of late 50s and 60s. But what was even more important was that the new generations have been growing, those who simply were not under that horrible pressure of Stalinist period, who have been witnessing the fall of Stalin and who have been witnessing the Hungarian Revolution, and who simply also wanted to live a more decent and more the life where the freedom would be more present. What I'm trying to say is that it lasted about 5 years, and at that time the development in Czechoslovakia, they somehow were following several lines. In the movie, for instance, there was a Czechoslovak new wave, people like Miloš Forman, who got an Oscar for The One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest, but also many other film directors, creative artists, writers, musicians, and journalists. So all of them in their environment were opening the taboos, they were naming them, and they were helping people to gradually be more and more aware that the state of the society and the state of the regime is inappropriate. And I have to tell you that even in those times we were somehow hesitating between a sort of desperation and sort of hope, yes? Because the more we were able to write something or to criticize something, the more we saw that, my God, this is still a very strongly centralized hierarchical communist regime, and practically the party controls everything. Then came what was called Prague Spring or Czechoslovak Spring with Alexander Dubček. Well, I have to say this was not quite, I would say, our case, because people with whom I worked, they were not reform communists. With all the respect to people who wanted to reform socialism, who wanted to reform the Communist Party and so on, but we were slightly younger, and I would say our thinking and our behaving was not directed at just a certain improvement of socialism, but rather how to build a basic pillars of what one could call, or what is it called today, a liberal democratic conditions for how to govern society. So, but at the same time, we have been following and we have been active also in everything what went on in those times in Czechoslovakia. It was really a very popular and very wide movement of people who, after, one can say, after 20 years, there was Hungarian Revolution, there were events in Poland, there was Berlin 1953, so almost in all or on many countries of the Soviet bloc there have been already some revolts, not in Czechoslovakia. So when it came, there were, I would say, a lot of potential, a lot of energy. There were ideas about economic reform, there were ideas about how to change the political regime, there were ideas about what to do as for the ethnic relationships between the Czechs and Slovaks. There were ideas how to change the educational system, and I could go on, and the censorship was practically abolished at the beginning of March, and from that time on the development went with the space speed. I know if we compare it with what has happened in Egypt, right? So, and what has happened in 1989 and what is happening with other revolutions, so it was still not that quick, but it was something after the years of very tough and cold and bureaucratic regime. It was something new. Then came Russians. Then came the Soviet invasion, which was for many people it was a horrible shock, because people liked Russians. They liberated us from the fascists. They came as, you know, our friends and brothers. Of course, then there was Stalin and Stalinism and Stalin's allies also in Czechoslovakia. But anyway, I think in general the relationships towards Russians were relatively good, but this was a shock for the vast majority of population, I would say. I don't think, never in the world history, the Communist Party got such a strong support like in Czechoslovakia. 80 to 90% supported. I mean, that Communist Party, the Reformed Communist Party, or the party which already has started the reform and was on the firm track to continue the reforms. But before that 14th Congress of Communist Party could take place, the Russians invaded Czechoslovakia.